The sun hid behind the towering iron gates of the Harrington estate as Naomi Carter stood there, clutching the handle of her modest suitcase. Her heart thudded beneath her thrift store blouse, but she lifted her chin anyway. This wasn't the first time someone assumed she wasn't enough, and it wouldn't be the last time she proved them wrong. "Name?" the guard asked, barely glancing her way. "Naomi Carter. Interview for the nanny position." Her voice was calm, steadier than she felt. The guard scanned his list, then paused as if waiting for her to disappear or perhaps rethink her decision. "Good luck," he muttered grimly as the gates groaned open. She stepped inside, each foot on the polished pathway feeling like an entrance into a place she didn't belong. A palace so big it seemed to swallow the sky. Marble pillars, sculpted fountains, a glimpse of gold from the windows. Wealth that could erase any struggle, yet somehow it radiated loneliness. Money that cold must freeze the soul. Across town, the CEO of that empire, Adrian Harrington, stormed down a sleek corporate hallway. His tie was crooked, his hair slightly undone, rare signs that something in his impenetrable life was cracking. "Sir, the board meeting is in 5. His assistant reminded, rushing after him. "I don't care about the board." His voice was sharp, too sharp. "I need someone who can handle my children. I'm not losing another one." He slowed, pressing a hand to the glass wall beside him. For a moment, his reflection looked like a stranger, a man drowning in a life others envied. His twins, Noah and Nora, 7 years old, brilliant, hurt, untamable. They used to laugh. They used to love before their mother died. Now they treated every nanny like a threat because everyone kept leaving. Everyone except the one person who wasn't allowed to stay. Adrian closed his eyes briefly, swallowing guilt he refused to name. "Find someone," he whispered, "before I lose them completely." Back at the mansion, the front doors opened themselves with quiet automation, and Naomi stepped inside. The house was too silent, too perfect, too polished for children to exist here. A decorative silence, like the place was holding its breath, preparing for an explosion. Mrs. Beaumont, the housekeeper, approached, a thin woman with silver hair and a tight expression. "You must be the new applicant." Skepticism practically dripped from her voice. "Follow me." Naomi did. Her heels clicked on marble as they passed the grand staircase, where a broken vase lay scattered. Shards of glass glinted on the floor like little diamonds, fresh damage. The warning shot. "They drove out the last nanny in 40 minutes, Mrs. Beaumont said without looking back. "Before that, 2 hours. Before that, a week. None survived long." Naomi frowned softly. "Survived? You make them sound like monsters?" Mrs. Beaumont stopped. "That's what some call them. Adrian Harrington's cursed children. Since the tragedy, they haven't been the same." Naomi's chest tightened. Grief, sharp like shards of that vase. "Children aren't monsters, ma'am. They're just misunderstood." Mrs. Beaumont looked at her then. Really looked at her, as though searching for cracks. For fear. When she found none, she exhaled. "You'll meet them upstairs," she said, her voice smaller, wearier. Upstairs, the twins were already watching from behind a cracked door, whispering, plotting. "She'll run," Noah said confidently, arms crossed. "They always run," Nora agreed, her curls a perfect contrast to the fury in her eyes. "We make sure." "But what if she doesn't?" he asked, quieter. "Then we push harder." Their world had taught them a single lesson. Anyone who comes, leaves. Better to chase them out first. Naomi stood outside the playroom door, smoothing her palms against her skirt. A faint crash sounded inside, followed by giggles that didn't sound happy at all. Mrs. Beaumont opened the door. "Children, this is—" A small hand flicked, and paint erupted, splattering Mrs. Beaumont's dress in a storm of red. A second glob soared toward Naomi, who instinctively caught it mid-air, the bright mess dripping through her fingers. Two tiny figures stared back, frozen. The twins expected fear, shock, anger. Their eyes sharpened, knees ready to sprint, hearts ready to hide. Instead, Naomi laughed, a soft, warm laugh, like sunlight through curtains. "Oh, good," she smiled gently, crouching down to their eye level. "Art. My favorite." The twins blinked. Confusion cracked their armor. She placed the dripping paint on the floor like it was the most natural thing in the world. "That shade of red," she said, pointing at the wall. "I think the butterflies you drew earlier would love it. But maybe next time, let's aim for a canvas?" Silence held the moment hostage. No one had reacted like that, ever. Noah's fist loosened first. Nora's lips twitched, just barely. Mrs. Beaumont stared, stunned. Naomi simply smiled wider. "I believe we're going to be great friends." But lurking just beyond that doorway, down the hall where guilt lived and regret festered, stood Adrian Harrington watching, observing. His stern expression didn't move, but his eyes, something softened, an emotion he no longer trusted to feel. Hope. Just a flicker. He stepped back before anyone saw him, before vulnerability made a fool of him. Can love be strong enough to face the fears children don't know how to name? What would you do if you walked into a job where everyone told you the kids were impossible? Would you stay like Naomi or run like everyone else did? Comment below. Naomi returned to the playroom slowly, aware that each movement mattered. Noah and Nora watched her like twin guard dogs, beautiful but cornered. Their matching blue eyes flickered with calculation. They were ready for battle again. Naomi sat on the floor, crossing her legs comfortably, as if she had stepped into a cozy nursery, rather than a war zone of broken crayons, half-finished puzzles, and splattered paint. "Do you two like stories?" she asked, wiping paint from her fingers with a tissue she'd fished from her purse. Noah narrowed his eyes. "Stories are boring." Nora crossed her arms tightly. "Nannies always tell stories, then they leave." The words struck Naomi like a cold slap. She took a slow breath, choosing her reply carefully. "Well, I don't have any plans to leave," she said softly. Noah tilted his chin defiantly. "They all say that." Naomi nodded once. "Then I guess you'll just have to wait and see if I'm different." Their silence was not acceptance. It was a test. The door creaked open, and Adrian stepped in, just a few inches, but far enough for the temperature of the room to shift. The twins stiffened. Their father might as well have been a thunderstorm entering the room. "Everything all right here?" he asked, voice distant but polite. Naomi stood quickly. "Yes, Mr. Harrington. I think we're doing just fine." Nora shot her father a look filled with pure betrayal. Noah's small fists balled so tight his knuckles turned white. Adrian didn't see it. Work had trained him to read markets, not children. "That's good." His gaze flickered between his kids, hunger and guilt battling inside him. "I'll be in my office if you need anything." But his body stayed frozen, as if he couldn't make himself walk away. Noah muttered under his breath, "You always leave." Adrian's posture faltered for just a second, barely visible, but Naomi saw it. A wound disguised as authority. This house, Naomi realized, was filled with people who didn't know how to stay. As soon as the door closed again, Nora sprung into action. She grabbed the nearest object, a toy rocket, and hurled it across the room. "Why did you talk to him?" she shouted. Naomi calmly bent to pick up the rocket. "Because he's your dad." "He's barely that," Noah snapped. "He doesn't love us, he just buys stuff." Nora's little voice cracked. "He didn't even say goodnight yesterday." Naomi placed the rocket carefully beside them and lowered her voice to a whisper. "Sometimes adults are bad at showing love the right way." Nora glared, eyes shining. Mom knew how. The room went still. Noah shoved a stack of building blocks violently, sending them crashing. "Nannies always pretend they care," he said, bitterness far too grown for his small body. "So we make them leave before they lie." Naomi's heart shattered a small, quiet break. She didn't reach out, not yet. That would be too much too soon. Instead, she asked gently, "What would it take for you to believe I want to be here?" The twins exchanged a look, twins communicating silently, a language made of pain and memories. Nora whispered to Noah, "Should we?" Noah nodded, jaw clenched. Nora turned to Naomi and lifted her chin like a judge passing sentence. "You want to stay?" she challenged. "Then follow us." They led her down a corridor Naomi hadn't seen yet. It was darker there, unloved, forgotten, a wing of the mansion that felt untouched by warmth. The twins pushed open a door, small handprints streaked it, as if clawing to get in or out. Naomi stepped inside and nearly lost her breath. A room preserved in time. Soft pastel wallpaper, baby pictures framed in silver, empty crib, books stacked as though someone meant to read bedtime stories forever. A mother's room that had never stopped waiting. Nora pointed at a single object on the vanity, a bottle of lavender perfume, nearly empty. "This is Mommy's," Nora said, voice quivering. Noah stared hard at Naomi, daring her to break. "We come here when we miss her. No nanny is allowed." Naomi swallowed past the lump in her throat. The air smelled faintly of lavender, ghosts of a love that once tucked children into bed and kissed scraped knees. "Thank you," Naomi whispered, "for trusting me with this." Nora flinched. Noah's eyes widened. That wasn't the reaction they expected. Most adults tried to clean the room, fix the pain, erase the mother. Naomi just honored her. In the doorway, a shadow shifted. Adrian, listening, breathing like each moment was a wound reopening. "This room should be locked," he said hoarsely, stepping inside. "It's not good for them." Noah's voice rose, sharp with anguish. "You're the one who locked it before." Nora lunged forward, pounding tiny fists against her father's chest. "You made her disappear." Adrian froze. He didn't block her. He didn't move. He simply absorbed every hit, like he agreed he deserved it. Naomi rushed forward, kneeling to hold Nora softly, protectively. Hey, breathe for me," Naomi whispered. "You don't have to scream to be heard. I hear you." Nora melted into her, sobbing hard against Naomi's shoulder. Noah hesitated, then stepped closer, silent, trembling, and Naomi placed an arm around him too. 3 hearts, broken in different ways, suddenly anchoring each other. Adrian stood helplessly, powerless, watching someone else comfort his children, watching a stranger do what he couldn't. His voice trembled. "Naomi, what are you doing?" She looked up at him, eyes burning with truth. "Letting them feel," she said, "because grief ignored becomes anger, and that anger has been the only thing holding them together." Adrian's face crumbled just for a second before the CEO mask slammed back into place. But Naomi saw that break. She saw a father begging the world not to see his weakness. Nora hiccuped against her chest. Promise you won't leave. Naomi kissed the top of her head gently. I promise to try, with my whole heart. The children clung tighter, and Adrian, lost somewhere between fear and hope, took a slow breath. Naomi Carter had done in one afternoon what no one else could. She had opened the door the twins had locked from the inside. She had touched their mother's absence and made space for love again. Has a child ever pushed you away when they were really asking you to stay? What did you do? Tell us in the comments. Dinner in the Harrington mansion was a silent battlefield. Naomi sat across from the twins, trying to follow the formal rules Mrs. Beaumont had instructed her on. Napkin folded perfectly, forks placed just so, no elbows on the table. The twins ignored every rule. Nora swung her legs, tapping the chair. Noah stabbed his peas aggressively, launching a few in Naomi's direction. She caught one without looking away from them. Nice shot, she murmured. Noah hesitated, shocked again by her lack of fear. But before either child could react further, Adrian entered. His presence drained the air of warmth, like a door slammed shut. Sit up straight, he commanded automatically. The twins stiffened. Naomi noticed their spines tightened like drawn strings, obedience rooted in fear, not respect. Adrian sat at the head of the table and unfolded a file. Contract papers. Naomi frowned. Reading during dinner? He didn't glance up. I have work, Miss Carter. She forced a small smile. Yes, but right now you also have children. The twins' eyes widened. No one challenged their father. Adrian finally lifted his gaze, eyes narrowing. I hired you to care for them, not lecture me. Naomi inhaled slowly. Stay calm. He's hurting too. I'm not lecturing, she said evenly. Just reminding you that they're here. They need you. Adrian's jaw ticked with irritation or shame. Noah pushed his plate away. Not hungry. Nora followed quickly. Me neither. Adrian frowned. Sit down, eat. Naomi lifted a hand gently. What if we ask them what they want to eat tonight? No. Adrian's voice was hard. Structure is what they need. Naomi met his gaze, refusing to shrink. Structure without compassion is just a cage. The room fell silent. Adrian's eyes flashed anger, fear, guilt. Emotions he refused to name. Who do you think you are? He whispered, small but sharp. Naomi straightened. Someone who sees the children you love, even if you've forgotten how. It was a gentle strike, but it hit like lightning. Adrian stood abruptly, chair scraping harshly. Dinner is over. Noah flinched. Nora's lower lip trembled. Adrian stormed out. The twins looked like balloons about to pop. Noah shoved his plate off the table. It shattered. Nora let out a scream, loud and raw, then bolted from the room. Naomi's heart hammered. Here it was. There, fear's defense. Now she had to choose to stay or run. She ran, but toward the scream. She found Nora curled behind the staircase, arms wrapped around knees, shaking. Naomi didn't speak. She didn't touch her. She simply sat down beside her, letting silence do the work. After a moment, Nora whispered, Daddy doesn't want us. Naomi's throat tightened. He does. He just doesn't know how to show it. Noah stood a few feet away, pretending he didn't care. But his rigid shoulders betrayed him. Naomi turned her head slightly. Your dad is hurting too. Nora sniffed. Why? There it was, the question the mansion kept locked up. He lost someone he loves, Naomi said gently. Just like you did. Nora wiped her nose with her sleeve. Then why doesn't he talk about Mommy? Naomi took a soft breath. Because if he says her name out loud, he's afraid the pain will swallow him whole. Noah's voice broke unexpectedly. We remember her. Why can't he? Naomi turned fully toward them now. He remembers her every second. That's why it feels safer not to speak. Upstairs, Adrian leaned against the wall outside his office, listening, his tightly wound controls slipping. Naomi's words hit places he didn't allow access to, places he locked behind responsibility, behind success, behind survival. His breathing shook. She doesn't understand, he told himself. But she did. Too well. Naomi leaned forward, looking the twins in their wounded eyes. You two are not bad, she whispered. You're hurting. And sometimes hurting looks like anger. Noah blinked fast to chase tears. Nora whispered, Will you get in trouble because we cried? Naomi placed a hand on her chest. My job isn't to stop your tears. It's to make sure you don't cry alone. Nora finally let her head fall against Naomi's shoulder. Noah sat down beside them, a silent surrender. Naomi wrapped her arms around them both. This moment, this closeness felt like a tiny piece of healing. But healing often makes wounds ache worse before they get better later. Naomi walked the twins to their room, reading them a bedtime story full of laughter and silly voices. They giggled once, soft, cautious, a sound that felt like sunrise. When they finally drifted to sleep, Naomi tucked the blankets around them gently and whispered, You are safe. I'm not going anywhere. She stepped into the hallway and found Adrian waiting. His expression was unreadable, storm clouds hiding behind skyscraper glass. You undermined me, he said quietly. Naomi swallowed. I supported your children. They need boundaries. They need love, she countered. His breathing sharpened. Don't pretend you know them after a single day. She stepped closer. I know trauma when I see it. His eyes darkened. And what trauma would you know, Ms. Carter? The assumption cut deep. Naomi didn't respond, because if she did, she'd have to open her own door to pain. Adrian continued, You are their nanny, nothing more. Your emotions are not required here. Naomi felt the sting but held her ground. My emotions are the reason I can help, he scoffed. You think you can fix us? No, she said softly. But I believe you deserve to be healed. That stunned him. For a moment, the powerful billionaire looked like a lost man begging no one to notice. He turned away. Keep your place, Ms. Carter. Naomi took a breath, choosing compassion over pride. Mr. Harrington, I'm not your enemy. He didn't respond. He simply walked off, his footsteps heavy, as if each step dragged ghosts behind him. And Naomi realized the twins weren't the only ones pushing her away. Adrian, terrified of losing what little he had left, was resisting too. Because love, no matter how desperately needed, was also the thing that could break him again. Storm clouds rolled over the Harrington mansion that night, thunder rumbling like the house itself was groaning from old wounds. Naomi was reviewing tomorrow's schedule when sudden frantic footsteps pattered down the hallway. Miss Carter, Mrs. Beaumont cried, breathless. It's Nora. She's having a panic attack. Naomi dropped everything and ran. She burst into the twins' room to find Nora trembling violently on her bed, cheeks soaked with tears, tiny hands clamped over her ears. It's the thunder, Noah yelled, scared too, but trying to hide it. Naomi didn't hesitate. She slid onto the bed and pulled Nora into her arms. Shh, sweetheart. I'm right here. Naomi rocked gently, voice soft as rain against a window. Breathe with me. In and out. But Nora wasn't calming. Her breaths came sharp and shallow, eyes wide with terror. She's remembering, Noah whispered, voice breaking. The storm the night Mommy died. Naomi's heart clenched. Suddenly the door flew open. Adrian rushed in. "What's wrong?" "Nora, hey, Daddy's here," he said, voice frantic. He tried to gather Nora into his arms, but the moment he touched her, she screamed. "No, don't leave us again," she cried, clawing at him, desperate and terrified. Adrian recoiled like he'd been struck. Naomi reached out quickly, her voice steady. "It's okay, she's triggered. We need to ground her." Adrian froze, helpless. A man who controlled billion-dollar deals suddenly powerless against his daughter's fear. "Nora," Naomi murmured, guiding her hand to her own heartbeat. "Feel this. I'm here. You're safe." Nora's breathing slowed just enough for words to slip through her sobs. "Daddy left us. Mommy left us. Everyone leaves." "No," Naomi whispered fiercely. "Not everyone." Thunder cracked again loud. Nora jolted violently. Naomi looked at Adrian, eyes urgent. "We need to change the environment. Pick her up." She doesn't want." "She does," Naomi insisted. "She's just scared. She knows you're her anchor." Adrian stepped closer, hands shaking. He lifted Nora into his arms, holding her like she was made of glass. Naomi placed a steadying hand on his shoulder. "Let's take her to that room. The safe one. The mother's room." His breath hitched. Entering that room was like stepping into grief incarnate. But for his daughter? He walked. When they entered, the lavender scent greeted them. Softer now, like the memory had exhaled. Naomi turned off the lights, except for the tiny night lamp shaped like a star. She knelt in front of Nora, who clung to her father's suit like a lifeline. "Nora," Naomi said gently, "every time you get scared, I want you to remember something." She tapped the girl's forehead softly. "Mommy is here." She tapped Nora's chest. "Mommy is here." Then she tapped Adrian's heart. "And here." Nora blinked up at her father. His expression cracked, the hard walls falling like bricks. "Daddy misses Mommy too?" she whispered, terrified of the answer. Adrian's jaw trembled. Naomi nodded subtly, urging him forward. "Yes," he choked out. "Every day." Nora burst into fresh tears and buried her face against his chest. This time, she wasn't pushing him away. She was clinging. Adrian wrapped his arms around her tight, letting himself feel the weight of her grief and his own. Noah sniffed loudly from where he stood at the doorway, trying not to cry. Naomi opened her arm, inviting him in without a word. He hesitated. Then a sob escaped, and he ran straight into the embrace, pressing his face into Naomi's side. Now they were all together, like shattered pieces finally forming a picture again. Naomi whispered warm words through their tears. "Storms come and go, but love stays. Mommy doesn't leave just because you can't see her." The thunder outside roared again, but this time, no one screamed. After the twins fell asleep in their mother's room, Nora curled against Naomi and Noah, holding his father's hand like an anchor. Adrian stepped out into the hallway, motioning Naomi to follow. For a long moment, they just stood there. The house was quiet. The storm outside had moved on. Adrian rubbed a hand over his face. "What you did in there, I've never seen anyone calm her like that." "She just needed to feel safe," Naomi said softly. "I make sure they have everything, security, the best doctors, the best education, but not the best version of you," Naomi finished gently. Adrian didn't lash out this time. He leaned against the wall, utterly exhausted. "I'm failing them." Naomi shook her head. "You're scared." He looked sharply at her. "You think fear makes me weak?" "No," she replied, voice soft but firm. "It makes you human." Adrian's eyes softened. Audrey, she loved storms, he said suddenly, speaking about his late wife for the first time. She used to take the twins outside under the porch and count the lightning. She said thunder was just the sky clapping. Naomi smiled sadly. She sounds beautiful. She was. His voice cracked. And losing her. I shut everything down, including myself, including them. Naomi stepped closer, careful but unafraid. It's not too late to open back up. Adrian's breath drew in like he hadn't inhaled in years. For one fleeting second, their eyes locked, and there was something there. Something dangerous. Something tender, something neither of them was ready to name. Adrian broke away first. You should get some rest, he said gruffly. So should you, Naomi replied, equally soft. He nodded and walked away slowly, like his feet were learning the way forward. Naomi watched him go, hand pressed to her whispered heartbeat. For the first time since she arrived, she believed this family could be whole again. For the next few days, the mansion felt lighter. The twins no longer glared with immediate suspicion. They watched Naomi with guarded hope instead, testing, observing, wanting to trust. Adrian, too, had softened. Not much, not obviously, but enough for Naomi to notice that he lingered at doorways more, listening. Enough that he made it home before bedtime just once, slipping in quietly as Naomi finished a story. But healing was slow, and grief always finds an opening. One afternoon, Naomi brought the twins outside to the garden for an art session, something playful to replace the chaos of paint bombs. Today, she said brightly, we paint what peace looks like. The twins exchanged a look. What if peace doesn't exist? Noah challenged. Naomi smiled gently. Then we get to create it. Nora chewed her lip, staring at her blank canvas. How do I draw, Mommy? Naomi crouched beside her. You draw how she made you feel. Nora blinked up, processing that. Slowly she began to paint soft, swirling lavender and smiling stick figures under a porch roof during a storm. Naomi's heart melted. Across the table, Noah painted bold strokes, a man holding hands with two children. The man was tall, but his face was missing. Naomi touched his shoulder. Who's that with you and Nora? He shrugged. Someone who stays. Naomi squeezed his shoulder gently. Maybe you can add a face when you believe someone can. Noah stared at his painting, jaw tight, emotion storming beneath the surface he protected so fiercely. Adrian stepped into the garden then, watching quietly. He carried 2 cups of coffee, both steaming. When Naomi looked up in surprise, he extended one toward her. I noticed you never take breaks, he said gruffly. She accepted it carefully, as if afraid the moment might shatter. Thank you. He cleared his throat, unsure what to do with the silence. Naomi asked softly, Do you come out here with them often? His eyes darkened. I haven't been out here since Audrey died. Naomi nodded, letting understanding settle. You're trying, she whispered. That matters. Before Adrian could reply, Noah's voice cut through the moment. Miss Carter, Nora ate a worm. Nora stuck out her tongue dramatically. It was chocolate. He lies. Adrian choked on a laugh, a rare, genuine sound. Naomi grinned. The moment was fragile, but beautiful. Later, while the twins napped, Naomi slipped into the small staff library to research child trauma strategies. She ran her finger along the spines of thick psychology books, hungry for knowledge, desperate to help. She reached for a book on grief counseling, but another fell from the shelf. A photo slipped out. A photo of Audrey Harrington holding infant twins, smiling, alive, luminous. Naomi picked it up gently, brushing dust from the glossy surface. She whispered, "They miss you." "Why do you care so much?" Adrian's voice startled her. He stood in the doorway, arms folded, not angry, just curious, vulnerable. Naomi held the photo to her heart. "Because losing a mother changes everything." His eyes narrowed, searching her face. "You speak like someone who knows." Naomi took a shaky breath. She could lie. She could deflect. She could stay safe behind her own walls. Instead, she opened a door she kept locked for years. "When I was 12, Naomi began softly, "my mother died suddenly. We didn't have family. We didn't have help. My father shut down. We lost our home." Adrian stepped inside, eyes full of something she couldn't name. "I promised myself that if I ever saw children hurting like I did," her voice cracked, "I would not let them feel alone." Adrian breathed in deeper, respect, regret, and connection blending in the air. "I misjudged you," he admitted. "I thought you were just a nanny?" Naomi smiled sadly. "Just a paycheck?" He flinched, guilt surfacing. "You're not just anything," he said, voice thick. Their eyes locked. Something warm flickered. Something dangerous. Something real. Then footsteps, fast, frantic, interrupted them. "Mr. Harrington," Mrs. Beaumont called, breathless. "There's a situation." Adrian stiffened. "What happened?" Mrs. Beaumont hesitated, then spoke in a whisper only he and Naomi could hear. "It's about your wife." Naomi's stomach flipped. They followed Mrs. Beaumont into Adrian's office, where a man in a cheap suit waited, nervous, sweating. "My name is Paul Jenkins," he introduced shakily. "I was Audrey Harrington's accountant." Adrian's eyes narrowed like sharpened glass. "Why are you here?" Paul swallowed hard and reached into his briefcase, hands trembling. "I found something in her files," he said. "Something you should see." He set down a sealed envelope, addressed to Adrian, in Audrey's handwriting. The room froze. Adrian stared as if the envelope might collapse the world beneath him. Naomi watched the emotion drain from his face, replaced by a mask of ice. "She left me a letter?" he whispered. Paul nodded. "She asked me to give it to you, if anything ever happened to her." Adrian's breath stuttered. "Why now?" I didn't realize it existed until I took over for a colleague who retired," Paul said, trembling. "I'm sorry." Adrian dismissed him abruptly. When the door closed, he stared at the envelope like it was a ticking bomb. Naomi whispered gently, "Do you want me to stay?" Adrian hesitated, torn between wanting to collapse and wanting to maintain control. "Stay," he said finally. His fingers shook as he tore the envelope open. Inside, only one sentence written in Audrey's elegant script. "If something happens to me, it wasn't an accident." Naomi gasped softly. Adrian's heart stopped beating for a second. Then rage and terror crashed through him all at once. "Get out," he breathed, but not at Naomi. At the memories threatening to drown him. Naomi placed a gentle hand on his arm. "Adrian, we can talk about—" He yanked away, voice fractured. "Leave me alone." "Adrian." "I said leave," he shouted. The twins, awakened by the noise, appeared in the hallway, eyes wide with fear. No, Naomi thought. Heartbreaking. Not again. "Daddy?" Nora whimpered. Adrian froze, terrified, furious, broken. Naomi moved toward the children, instinctively shielding them with her body. Adrian saw the fear in their eyes, fear of him, and his face shattered. "No," he whispered. "Not them. Not again." He stumbled backward, away from them, away from Naomi, away from the truth. The letter slipped from his hands and floated to the floor. Naomi picked it up gently, as if holding a fragile piece of his soul. She watched him disappear down the hallway like a man running from ghosts, and she realized Adrian Harrington wasn't just grieving. He was haunted. The next morning, the mansion was silent. Naomi paused outside Adrian's office, the door still closed, the lights still off. She could feel the grief pressing like a weight on the other side. But right now, the twins needed stability. So she plastered on a smile and went searching for them. She found Noah sitting at the kitchen counter, stabbing his cereal aggressively. "Everything okay, buddy?" "No." He stabbed again. Daddy yelled. Naomi sat beside him. "Your dad was scared." He looked angry. "Sometimes," Naomi said softly. "Anger is what fear wears when it doesn't want anyone to see it's hurting." Noah went still. His eyes shimmered, like he understood that more than he should at his age. Naomi placed a hand on his back. "You're safe, and your dad still loves you more than anything." He sniffed and didn't argue, which was progress. Then Nora entered, dragging her blanket like a lifeline, eyes sleepy and worried. "Daddy didn't kiss us goodnight," she whispered. Naomi pulled her close. Maybe he needed someone to kiss him goodnight. Nora blinked. But who kisses Daddy goodnight? A quiet ache spread through Naomi's chest. Later that day, Naomi decided the twins needed fresh air and laughter. She took them to the backyard, where fallen leaves had collected into thick piles beneath the trees. "Okay," she announced dramatically. "New therapy method." The twins perked up with curiosity. Naomi grinned mischievously. "Leaf war." Noah's eyes lit up. "We can throw leaves? As many as you want, at me." They looked at each other and then launched. Within seconds, Naomi was buried in a storm of autumn color, the kids giggling wildly. She leaped up with a roar and scooped them both into a giant pile. Noah shrieked. Nora squealed. For the first time since Naomi arrived, they sounded like children. A soft rustle drew Naomi's attention. Adrian stood at the back door, watching. He looked exhausted, but seeing the twins laughing brought warmth into his eyes. "You can join, you know?" Naomi called out. "I don't do leaf wars," Adrian said, folding his arms. "Scared you'll lose?" Naomi teased. Noah cupped his hands around his mouth. "Join us, scary cat." Nora burst into giggles. "Daddy's scared of leaves?" Adrian raised an eyebrow. "Is that so?" Naomi smirked. "Come prove us wrong." He exhaled, long-suffering, then walked down the steps. The twins watched him approach with mischievous glee. The moment he reached them, they ambushed him. Leaves exploded everywhere as the three fell into the pile. Adrian landed on his back, stunned, then burst into laughter so warm Naomi nearly forgot to breathe. The twins climbed onto him like a jungle gym. He hugged them close, burying his face in their hair, breathing in their happiness like medicine. Naomi smiled so wide it hurt. Later in the day, Adrian insisted on making lunch. Naomi tasted his grilled cheese and tried not to choke. "Wow, this is crispy." "It's supposed to be gourmet," he replied with a mock glare. Noah shouted, "It tastes like burnt socks." Adrian pointed dramatically at Naomi. "You're banned from movie night for encouraging them." Naomi gasped. "Not fair. I love movie night." "You haven't experienced it yet." "Then I'll love it preemptively." He shook his head with the smallest smile. For once, the heaviness in him wasn't in control. Evening after bedtime, Naomi returned to the living room to find Adrian staring at the fireplace, the unopened letter now resting on the table beside him. She approached carefully. "They're asleep." she said softly. He nodded, eyes still on the fire. I scared them. You scared yourself, Naomi corrected gently. You thought reading that letter would give you peace, but instead it gave you questions. He exhaled sharply. I don't know who to trust. You can trust me? The words slipped out, too honest, too exposed. Adrian slowly turned toward her. His voice was quiet, unsure. Can I? Naomi didn't look away. Yes. A long moment passed. Then Adrian spoke, not as a CEO, not as a billionaire, but as a man breaking open. When Audrey died, I wasn't here. I was on a plane, signing a merger deal halfway across the world. I missed her last breath, and every night since. I wonder if she thought I didn't care. Naomi's heart cracked. She moved closer, sitting beside him. You loved her, she whispered. She knew. How? Because love like that doesn't hide. His shoulders shook, grief finally allowed to live outside his body. Without thinking, Naomi reached for his hand. He didn't pull away. His fingers curled around hers slowly, like he was learning how to hold on to something again. She felt his pulse, rapid, vulnerable, matching the beat of her own heart. Their eyes met. The air between them thickened, heavy with possibility, danger, longing. Adrian lifted his hand, brushing a stray curl from her cheek. Naomi froze under the warmth of his touch. She could feel the shift, the pull, the closeness they were stepping into. But fear flickered in his eyes. I don't want to hurt you, he breathed. You won't, Naomi whispered, though her heart trembled with hope and risk. They leaned in, just a fraction, lips almost touching. Then the door creaked. Mrs. Beaumont cleared her throat from the hallway. Apologies. I didn't realize anyone was here. Adrian jolted back, mask slamming down instantly. Naomi blinked, heart racing, the moment collapsing like glass. Mrs. Beaumont gave Naomi a strange look, almost warning, before disappearing again. Adrian stood abruptly. We should get some rest. Yes, Naomi murmured, trying to steady her breathing. Of course. He hesitated, like he wanted to stay. But fear pulled him away. Good night, Naomi. Good night, Adrian. When he left the room, Naomi pressed her fingers to her lips, where his almost were. For one heartbeat. She'd seen the man behind the armor, and he was beautiful. The shift in the house was subtle at first. Adrian showed up less during the day. He buried himself in meetings, barely glancing Naomi's way. The twins sensed the change instantly. Noah became restless and clingy, while Nora kept asking, did we do something wrong? Naomi reassured them again and again, but doubt gnawed at her own heart. Every moment she and Adrian shared in the living room, the laughter, the closeness, was suddenly treated like it never existed. Naomi felt the cold walls slam down, and she didn't know why. 3 days later, Naomi walked into the staff kitchen and froze. Mrs. Beaumont and another housekeeper were whispering harshly. Oh, only here a few weeks, and she thinks she owns the place. She's manipulating him. Billionaires are always prey for gold diggers. And imagine, a nanny in the wife's room, holding his children like she's replacing their mother. Mrs. Beaumont scoffed. The woman can't stay in her lane. Naomi stepped forward, voice low and steady. If you have something to say it to me. They both turned stiffly. Mrs. Beaumont lifted her chin. You're overstepping boundaries. That room is sacred, and the children are confused enough without you pretending to be their mother. Naomi's heart lurched painfully. I have never. Oh, please, Beaumont sneered. We saw you practically hanging on to Mr. Harrington the other night. And now he's distracted and exhausted again. You're trouble, Miss Carter. Naomi swallowed hard. I only want to help this family heal. That's not your role, Beaumont snapped. And Mr. Harrington agrees. That sentence hit like a fist. Naomi felt dizzy, breath shallow. Mrs. Beaumont leaned in, a final twist of the knife. You are temporary. Don't forget that. Naomi stormed out before the tears could fall. That afternoon, Adrian called Naomi into his office. His voice was cold. Corporate, every trace of the man who almost kissed her. Gone. I've received concerning reports, he began. You've been crossing lines with the children. Naomi stiffened. Crossing lines? I was comforting them. You took them into Audrey's room, he said sharply, without my permission. They were traumatized. Nora couldn't breathe. That room is off limits, he said, jaw tight. You know that. Naomi stared at him, hurt rising like a tide. I thought we were past shutting each other out. He froze, emotion flickering in his eyes, before he shut it down again. This isn't personal, he lied. Naomi took a step closer, trembling. You told me I could trust you. Adrian's voice hardened. Trust works both ways. Naomi's throat burned with injustice. So you're listening to rumors now? To whispers? After everything we've been rebuilding? Adrian looked away. That's exactly the problem, he muttered. Naomi's breath caught. You think I'm trying to replace her? For a moment she saw truth flash in his eyes, fear and guilt tearing him apart. She was my wife, he burst out, voice raw. And I won't let anyone erase her. Erase her? Naomi felt like she'd been slapped. I'm not trying to erase her, she whispered. I'm trying to help your children remember what love feels like. That's not your place, he said. There it was. The shatter. Naomi nodded slowly, the pain settling deep. I understand. But Adrian flinched, like he didn't want her to say that. She turned away, blinking back tears, refusing to let him see her break. She found Noah and Nora sitting at the top of the staircase, listening. Their faces were stricken. Noah ran to her instantly, wrapping his arms around her waist. Don't leave, he cried. Nora clung to her leg, sobbing. We'll be good. Don't let Daddy send you away. Naomi knelt, pulling them into her arms. I'm not leaving, she whispered, a promise she wasn't sure she could keep. I'm right here. But her voice cracked, and the twins heard it. Noah pulled back, eyes blazing with fury for the first time in days. He turned on his father, who stood in the office doorway watching, guilt etched into every line of his face. I hate you, Noah shouted. You ruin everything. Mommy left and now you want Naomi to leave too. Adrian staggered backward, like the words were a bullet. Noah, he choked, don't touch her. Don't take her away. Nora sobbed. Naomi held them tightly, her own tears slipping free. Adrian stepped forward, voice shaking. Kids. Naomi shook her head sharply, silently telling him not now. He stopped, jaw clenched, eyes full of a broken man who had lost control of the last pieces holding his world together. That night, Naomi tucked the twins into bed, both crying, clinging, terrified she would vanish by morning. She sang to them softly, a lullaby her grandmother used to hum, a song about storms passing. Eventually, they slept. When she stepped into the hallway, Adrian was there, leaning against the wall like he needed it to stay upright. Naomi avoided his eyes. I'm sorry, he murmured. She didn't answer. I'm afraid, he confessed, of how much space you take up, of how you make them laugh, of how you make me. He stopped himself. Naomi finally looked at him. "You're pushing me away because you're starting to feel something," she whispered. His silence was confirmation. "And that terrifies you more than losing her ever did." Adrian's breath caught, eyes widening, because she had named the fear he never admitted. Naomi wiped a tear from her cheek. "But you're not the only one afraid." She stepped back, creating distance he would have to choose to cross. "If you want me here, you'll have to fight for it." Her voice was quiet but steady. Then she turned and walked away, leaving Adrian alone in the hallway, fists clenched, breathing like a man drowning. He stared down the corridor where she disappeared. And for the first time in years, Adrian Harrington had no idea how to hold his family together. If you were Naomi, would you stay and fight or walk away to protect your heart? Tell us in the comments. Naomi did not sleep. She sat on the edge of her bed with a half-packed suitcase open across the room, a silent threat she hadn't decided whether to make real. Her heart ached with confusion and longing. She had come here to work, not to feel, not to hope, not to fall. But hope had found her anyway, and heartbreak followed. A soft knock startled her. "Miss Naomi?" It was Nora. The child's voice trembled. "Can I sleep with you?" Naomi opened the door, and Nora rushed into her arms, trembling like a leaf in the wind. "I heard Daddy on the phone," she whispered, tiny hands clutching Naomi's shirt. "He said maybe you shouldn't stay." Naomi closed her eyes, pain slicing clean through her chest. "Nora," she whispered, stroking her hair, "your father is confused, but he loves you very much." "Do you love us?" Nora asked into her shoulder. Naomi's throat closed. She knelt to eye level and cupped the girl's cheek gently. "I love you more than you know." Nora wrapped her arms around Naomi's neck and didn't let go. Meanwhile, Adrian stood in his office, staring at the contract termination letter he had drafted but not signed. His hands shook above the paper. He couldn't bring himself to finish the stroke. Mrs. Beaumont entered quietly. "Sir, shall I send this to HR?" Adrian's stomach twisted. He looked toward the doorway to where Naomi usually passed in the evenings, humming softly while checking on the children. He saw nothing but empty hall. "What if I'm making a mistake?" he murmured. Mrs. Beaumont stiffened. "Mr. Harrington, your late wife trusted me with this home. That woman is replacing Audrey in your children's hearts." "That woman," Adrian repeated, voice low with warning. "She's damaging the family," Beaumont insisted. "The family was already damaged," Adrian shot back. Mrs. Beaumont stumbled back, stunned. Adrian stared again at the letter. He couldn't do it. He shoved the document into a drawer, slamming it shut like he was imprisoning a demon. "Good night, Mrs. Beaumont," he said flatly. She left, eyes narrowed with a brewing threat. The next morning, Naomi helped the twins get dressed while hiding that her heart was breaking. Noah noticed the suitcase immediately. "Are we going somewhere?" Naomi swallowed hard. "No, sweet boy. Just putting things in order." Noah looked unconvinced. Nora climbed into Naomi's lap, her voice tiny. "Don't put away the picture we drew. It belongs here." Naomi hugged them tight, forcing back tears. "Nothing that belongs here will be taken." But her voice sounded like goodbye. Breakfast came with a tense silence. Naomi entered the dining room with the children. Adrian sat at the head of the table, untouched coffee before him. When he saw Naomi, his eyes softened, but he said nothing. Nora immediately climbed into Naomi's lap. Noah glared across the table. "You're being mean to her," he announced. Adrian drew a sharp breath. "Noah, it's true," Nora said. lower lip trembling. "We heard you." Adrian's shoulders sagged under the weight of his children's hurt. He looked at Naomi, apology written in every line of his face, but fear still kept his mouth shut. Naomi broke the silence. "We should speak privately later." He nodded, grateful and terrified all at once. Later, the moment of truth, Naomi waited on the balcony outside the library, the winter air stinging her skin. Adrian stepped through the glass doors, looking like a man preparing for a battle he wasn't sure he could win. Naomi spoke first. "I can't stay in a place where I'm treated like a danger for caring." Adrian flinched. "I know, and I'm sorry." She searched his face, walls cracking just enough for truth to leak through. "You weren't scared of me, Adrian," she whispered. "You were scared of what you felt." He closed his eyes, caught. "You made me remember what it feels like to be alive," he finally said, "and that terrifies me." Naomi stepped closer, voice trembling but strong. "I'm not asking you to forget her." His gaze snapped up. "I'm asking you to let yourself heal, to let them heal, and to stop punishing yourself for surviving." The wind rustled through the bare trees, like the world was listening. "I am falling for you," Adrian confessed, voice rough. "But I don't know if I deserve you." Naomi's heart thudded loud enough she feared he'd hear it. "You don't have to deserve love," she answered, voice softening. "You just have to choose it." Silence, long, heavy, life-changing. Adrian reached for her hand, slowly, painfully. Then footsteps thundered down the hallway. Noah burst onto the balcony, panting, eyes wide with terror. "We can't find Nora!" Naomi and Adrian froze. "What?" Naomi breathed. "She left a note," Noah cried, thrusting a crumpled paper forward. "She ran away because she thinks you're leaving." Naomi's blood turned to ice. Adrian snatched the paper. In messy crayon handwriting, "If Naomi goes away, I go too." Nora panic shattered every remaining wall. Adrian's world tilted. "Call security. Check the grounds," he barked at the nearest guard. But Naomi grabbed his arm, eyes fierce, unwavering. "Listen to me. We'll find her. Together." He stared at her, and in that instant, made the choice. He took her hand, gripping tight. "Don't ever leave us," he whispered, raw and desperate. Naomi's heart cracked wide open. "I'm not going anywhere." Together, they ran, searching, calling, terrified that love had come too late. Should Adrian have told Naomi how he felt sooner? Comment below what you think would have prevented this heartbreak. Snowflakes drifted from the sky as Naomi and Adrian burst into the driveway, breath sharp in the freezing air. "Nora!" Naomi shouted into the wind. "Sweetheart!" Noah ran beside them, panic tightening his little voice. "She said she was going where Mommy went." Adrian stopped short, horror washing over his face. "The lake," he whispered. Naomi froze. "That's where Audrey—" Adrian didn't wait for her to finish. He sprinted through the cold, down the hill toward the dark water hidden by pines. "Nora!" he cried, voice breaking. No answer. Naomi caught up, heart pounding with the terror that she could lose another little girl who trusted her. Then she saw it, a small figure curled up at the edge of the lake near the old boathouse. "Nora!" Naomi dropped to her knees, wrapping her arms around the trembling child. "Oh, baby, what are you doing here?" Nora's lips quivered violently. "If you leave, Mommy will still be gone, and Daddy will be sad again, and we'll be alone." Naomi held her tighter. "No, you will never be alone." Adrian crashed into them, dropping to the snow, He crushed Nora into his chest, sobbing openly. No walls, no pride. "Don't ever do that again," he begged. "You're my heart. If anything happened to you." Nora rested her head under his chin. "Don't let Naomi go." Adrian looked at Naomi and for once didn't push the emotion away. "I won't," he promised. He stood and pulled Noah into the embrace as the boy arrived, breathless and crying. They formed a circle, broken pieces finally clicking back into place. Back at the mansion, the children refused to let go of Naomi's hands as they walked inside. Every light in the house felt warmer now, softer, like it exhaled relief. Mrs. Beaumont rushed forward in panic. "Is she all right? Where?" Adrian held up a hand, stopping her. "She's fine," he said calmly. Then, looking directly at Beaumont, "And Miss Carter stays." Mrs. Beaumont blinked, shocked. "But sir, we are done here," Adrian said firmly. "Please prepare her things. She will remain in the family wing." Naomi froze. Family wing? Mrs. Beaumont stiffened with wounded pride, but bowed slightly. "As you wish." When she left, Adrian knelt in front of the twins and brushed the hair from their faces. "We're going to talk about this later," he told them gently. "But for now, we rest." The twins hugged Naomi once more before heading upstairs with the night nanny. Adrian watched them go, then turned back to Naomi. Snowflakes from their search still clung to her hair, glistening like stars. He reached out softly and brushed a few away, fingertips lingering near her cheek. "I nearly lost her," he whispered, "because of my fear." Naomi's eyes softened. "Fear means you care." He took her hand, and this time she didn't tremble. "I care too much," he said. "About them. About you." Her breath caught, warm mist in the winter air. "You don't have to say anything now," he continued, voice low and honest. "Just don't leave." Naomi smiled through tears. "I wasn't packing because I wanted to leave. I was packing because I was scared I'd be forced to." Adrian stepped closer, chest rising and falling like he was daring to breathe again. "No more forcing," he vowed. "From now on, we choose." He brushed a curl behind her ear, his thumb grazing her cheek. "I choose you, Naomi Carter," he whispered. The world seemed to hold its breath. Naomi reached up, cupping the back of his neck. "And I choose you," she murmured. He leaned in slowly, giving her time to stop him if she wanted. She didn't. Their lips finally met. A soft, trembling kiss. The kind that says, "I've been waiting for you longer than I can admit." Adrian deepened the kiss, drawing her close, like he'd found his lifeline. Naomi's hand slid over his chest, feeling the heartbeat he'd once tried to bury. They pulled apart, breathless, foreheads pressed together. "You taste like hope," Adrian whispered with a crack of a smile. Naomi laughed softly, wiping a tear. "And you taste like certainty." A few months later, spring washed the world in green. Laughter echoed from the backyard where the twins played tag. Nora with flowers braided into her hair, Noah chasing her with a wooden plane. Naomi stood at the porch, watching with a tender smile. Arms slid around her waist from behind, strong, warm, familiar. Adrian kissed her cheek. "Mrs. Harrington to be," he teased softly. Naomi turned in his arms with a playful glare. "You still haven't asked." Adrian grinned and then dropped to one knee right there in the grass. Noah and Nora froze, eyes huge. "Naomi Carter," Adrian said loudly enough for the children and every angel watching to hear. "You walked into our lives and rebuilt what I thought was beyond saving." The twins ran over, joining him on each side, holding up a drawing of them all together with the words, "Our family." Adrian held out a small ring, delicate, elegant, simple, just like the love she brought. "Will you marry us?" Nora asked, bouncing. "Please?" Noah added, pretending to be stern. Naomi's heart burst open with joy. "Yes," she whispered, then louder. "Yes." The twins cheered as Adrian rose and kissed her, not with fear this time, but with a love fearless enough for all four hearts. The world finally felt right. That night, movie night became a tradition. Naomi in the middle, the twins tucked under each arm. Adrian's hand laced with hers over the blankets. Lightning flashed outside, but no one flinched. Adrian whispered into Naomi's hair, "Love stays." She smiled, kissing his cheek softly. "It always does," she replied. The sky rumbled, the earth applauded, and inside, the family that grief once shattered finally sat whole again. Together. Safe. Home. What would you have done in Adrian's shoes? Would you have been brave enough to choose love again? Comment your thoughts below. We're reading everything.